Good evening. This is Ryan Martz, founder of the Martz Leadership Services. Good evening to you. Hope you're doing well this weekend. Wanted to talk to you today about, maybe no specific subject, but let's call it the About Me section. So, when I was a senior in high school, basketball was my love growing up. I mean, I never made it to the NBA, but I loved it. Grew up watching the Pistol Pete movie, slept with the basketball. For any Bible scholar out there, the equivalent of what fishing was to Peter, James, and John, I've said it before, fishing to them was basketball to me. That's where I learned a lot of my early principles, a lot of my early networking and connections and development as a young guy, and experiences. And some of, the brotherhood, the best friends that I have today still date back to those early experiences, no doubt, overall. So when I was a senior, not a lot of people know, but I ended up not playing my senior year, and had a few surgeries under my belt, and a broken back. Had a great miracle testimony of that, and surgery, and I always felt like I was here to become a better person, not a basketball player, and it really was a pivotal time in my life. And boy, I enjoyed my senior year. And I remember in high school, I had this burden for what was called extended society, and I did my first public project with it. Winter of my senior year was a clothing drive, donation. Gave it to the homeless shelter of South Bend, Indiana there, and so that was like the early birth, really, within my own self of what eventually became Martz Leadership Services. Really, I was in graduate school, and I had two different occasions. And one time I worked it as a nonprofit, one time as a profit. Essentially, philosophically and emotionally behind it, it serves more as a foundation, not really as a money driver. To me, it's a connection point to a lot of things, one of which dates back a lot of family history in the ministry, also family history, in the business world. When I was very young, probably out of high school, probably had a little bit of a somewhat just a, kind of out there stretch, if you will. I don't know if you classify it as wild or not, but I eventually got to this one point where I really felt this deep, distinct burden. I had this particular experience, and maybe I could share that another time. But basically, long story made short, I entered into about 12 years of full-time ministry work, or certainly aspiring. Had some real distinct drive, and that was really the driving force of really all my 20s. Thankfully, I was able to collect a business degree along the way. I had about 15 years of experience in sales and business development as I was just trying to learn my way through the system, and grow as a young professional. And eventually got to a point where I just, obviously my focus was on my two kiddos, and then focused on my own personal health, and got to a spot where the Martz Leadership Services was able to become more public and branded. And I was also really blessed that I became a remote scout with NCSA, which tied me back into a lot of joy and initial roots with basketball and just the student athlete journey, which was one of the components that the MLS worked, but not limited to. So it was very befitting that could be part of my life as well. But ultimately, the MLS was able to provide a avenue in which I could tie in ministry experience that I had when I was younger, and then business development, leadership experience as well. In my graduate program that I was working on, it dealt with a lot of leadership components. So it kind of got me to this point now, in which, typically, I would say, if we're judging it by social media standards, maybe I reveal about 10% of my life, and the 90% I keep in the closet. I like it like that, and it feels good. A lot of people think, when they know my personality, they think, oh man, you're out there, like you're such an extrovert. And really, I'm the philosophy that, okay, if you spend 10 or 20% of your life on the stage, there's probably 80-90% of it going on behind stage in the practice arena and the secret places of your life. So, that's where I draw my strength from, that secret place that kind of hewn out in my life. I remember when I was younger, I was driving. There was a guest speaker at a church that I worked at. He was an out-of-state traveler, very renowned man, and someone that I, certainly had respect for. And I remember him talking with me in a car about maybe the idea of some extended fast that he had gone on when he was younger. And that it was still sticking with him to that day. He was, a little bit older at that time and had a family and kids, and probably multitasking much more than he did when he was a little bit younger. I remember that stuck with me, and I used to participate in fasting much more. And hey, is this still recording? I do believe it is. Yeah. But probably the most distinct time that I really separated myself, I remember when Christiana, my daughter, was young. I really felt like this desire to really consecrate a period of time of my life, and boy, did it mean something so much to me. I set out to do a 40-day fast, which I did, all because of the Lord's strength. It was weird. It was so, like, I felt more energy during that fast than probably when I was eating my good old Snickers bar or something. But, I was working a full-time job too, a regular job. And so I think I kept liquids in, coffee, broth, whatever I could do to survive liquid-wise. There were 2 business functions I remember being a part of in which I had a meal. Somehow I did not get sick or throw up. I do remember we had a trip to Denver pretty much after I broke the fast, and I think I'd gone from like 200 pounds to 160, pretty much 40 pounds in 40 days, which that was not the objective. But I say all that to say is that, I was able to hew out like this place within myself, with God, that, I remember toward the end of that, like you might think I'm crazy, but what's real is real. I mean, I had like this wrestling match with myself. I felt like this wrestling match with God. I felt like this wrestling match with the devil. And like it really shaped me. And the crazy thing is, like, when I got out of that fast, not right away, but down the line, I hit just horrible bombs in my life and went through hell. And so I say all that to say it's not like it gave me like this, like I was magically, like my life was flawless after that. If anything, I hit the hardest patches of my life afterwards. But I believe over a decade removed now from that, thereabouts. I mean, might be more than a decade. Very close, either way, perhaps, or decade or more. I'm still drawing off strength from that. And Today, for the first time, I was reminded of a chapter in the Bible that I really liked, Psalms, what was it here, 139. And there's a passage in there that says, if I make my bed in hell, you're with me still. There's another passage there where it says, the darkness and the light are both the same to thee. And please forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, and certainly not my intent to take anything out of context, but I say all that to say is sometimes when you get to some really deep places, and we don't have to, specifically gauge in some type of religious capacity here, but within your own self even, when you have these times when you hit this deep part of your journey, it, how should I say it? That's where you develop a confidence that it really doesn't matter what circumstances you go through, because the baseline is the baseline. And really even, I've been for the most part a well-liked guy, so I do care about, how people think about me. I never want to feel like, man, I offended someone or I did something. I hope they didn't take it the wrong way, and I worry like that, no doubt. Anyone who knows me well knows that, but at the same time, like I have like this, this want to in myself to like really not care about what anyone else thinks. I mean, that's the type of driving force that would excite me, and kind of be an outlier, if you will. Not because you're trying to be a rebel, but it's just like, hey, do your own thing, do your own thing. And so, one, I will pause to say, if some of my young entrepreneur friends out there, you could be an athlete, you could be a business entrepreneur, ministry, whatever, a musician. The thing is, it's like, I'm not saying like go on some crazy sabbatical where you neglect responsibility, especially if you have a family. Holy cow. But find something to hewn out in your life where you have that secret place. For me, it was centered around God. But you gotta find that secret place, like that place where it's quiet, secure, it's hidden away. It's not the publicized post, if you will, because that's the source that gives you strength for everything else. And we all have different makeups and personalities, but if that hits home with you, I think we all deserve a chance and an opportunity where we can know we have this secret place that we can retreat to. And again, I'm not talking about going to Thailand or something. I'm talking about, in the middle of your crazy world, someplace you can slip away, even in the house, an early morning meditation. I don't know. Your life, obviously, and I don't. But so I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is, in my capacity of life, some of the whole MLS philosophy is like, look, I am not an expert really at anything. I never became a doctor. I never became an NBA player. I never became like this, multiple 100K sales billionaire type entrepreneur guy. For all intent purposes, I had some good opportunities in the ministry and some great things happened, but it's not like I was like this world-renowned speaker or pastored some mega church or something like that. So what I am saying, though, is some of the premise of the MLS, what I have realized is that I can leverage great people. I mean, I know wonderful people in the basketball world. I know people all over the world, and if I don't know them, somebody else does. Great ministry. Know some great business people, anything from, suit, coat, and tie type job to, someone down in the nit and gritty, union work, small businesses, corporate America. I'm blessed that, my journey has allowed me to know some wonderful people. So, it's, again, 90% of my life, will stay, where it is, where you're probably not seeing it. But from everything from a call to come visit someone in the psych ward, to sitting by someone on their deathbed in the hospital, to talking at a funeral, to talking with really almost any diversity of a situation under the sun. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a gang situation or if it's, your perfect family situation. If it's, trying to do something good on some horrible, violent street. I mean, there's been a lot of situations that I've probably been in that, maybe people don't realize, but the situation, I say all that to say, is there's a diversity of experiences, and you have them too. And what I do want to say is, if you're trying to link up to something, right, like you want to get into a particular field, you have a business idea, you don't have startup funds. I'm not saying I have the startup funds for you, but if you need to be connected to someone, let me know. Again, I'm not the solution probably for you all the way, but a little bit of consultation, a little bit of brainstorming. If there is a contact, we can make that happen, perhaps. But I think the ultimate takeaway here, I mean, again, I guess I just called it by default the About Me section, which you probably have just learned a lot about me, and that's okay. But if there's any takeaways from this long-winded monologue here, I'm sure you're ready to get off if you haven't already, it is a fact of this, is that I encourage us all to find this deep place, this period of time when you can really pull out the stops, get a consecrated secret place in your life where you can come to terms and be secure. And it doesn't mean that you're going to go through stuff afterwards, that you're not gonna, but that baseline, that time in your life where you allowed, most of us, what we do, we're like living check to check with our gas tank. You just put $10 in, gets a little bit low, then you got to put 7 in, then you get paid, so you put 19 in it. And the reality is very few of us, in American culture at least, allow ourselves to get filled up full emotionally. We just get enough to take care of the kids, take care of our job, regroup a little bit. Maybe we'll do a quick workout, eat a pizza, regroup, watch a funny show, and then we're still hovering around that quarter of a tank mark or half a tank, whatever the case is. I guess what I'm trying to encourage you here is allow yourself the courtesy of getting to a full tank. You and I both know you're not going to stay at a full tank forever. But what you draw strength from in your particular engine of life, mentally, emotionally, your physique, your personhood, that will give you strength that you can draw for years and years and years to come. And then every once in a while, you just kind of got to revisit it, allow yourself to get, filled up a little bit more, and not try to keep running the steamboat, always on a half tank. I get it. That's life. That's our culture. That's our microwave system here. But, it's like something I've done on one of these ads, that I've shared. You're the CEO of your life, right? Like, who says you can't take some time? And again, this is not neglecting priorities and family and work and whatever, but what I want to do, I don't want it to be a dead horse here, but, we'll try to close this out. I just want to encourage you, pull away, get yourself full, take a little time for yourself, and then try to revisit that, and let that be like a memorial stone that you can draw strength from years to come. Get to the point where, you don't really care what comes and goes. If you make your bed in hell, God's with you. Whether it's dark out or light out, it's the same. Yeah. Because your system of perspective and the operation of your foundation exists so beyond the material eye that it might look one way to one person, another way to another person, but you know the depth of where you are, and that's where you can live, move, and have your being. So signing off for now. Thank you for joining me again, and you guys have a great sunny weekend, and the MLS believes in you, and we're always here for you. Blessings to you. Best.